Hello, I'm going to tell you a story about the hamster that I had when I was in fourth grade. Not a very long-lasting hamster. When I was about 8 years old, my sister and I finally wore down our parents to let us get a pet. The reason we wore them down is because we asked for a hamster, which is relatively easy to take care of. The day finally came when we were going to the pet store, and I had invited my best friend at the time, her name was Missy, to come along with us to come pick out my hamster with me. I don't remember what was going on. Something was making us wait for a little bit before we could leave. So Missy and I started playing outside while we were waiting to get in the car, and we somehow started playing this game where she had a dandelion in her hand and was chasing me with it, and it was supposed to be something dangerous, so I had to run away from it. Well, my dad, he owns a realty company, and also he owns his own construction company. So he always has for sale signs and construction materials just laying around our two garages. Yes, he has filled two garages with all of his stuff. So next to our garage, we had a giant pile of wood planks. So Missy was chasing me through the driveway with this dangerous dandelion, and I was running backwards to kind of see how close she was to me, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, somehow I ended up running backwards, and then by the time I turned back around, the giant pile of wooden planks were about to make me fall down, and I tripped over them and I scraped up my shin pretty badly. And of course, that happened right as we were finally about ready to leave. So then we had to wait even longer so that I could clean up my shin. I was crying so bad. I have always had this thing where when something really awesome is happening one day, I want that day to be perfect. So I was really mad that on this day that was supposed to be perfect because I was getting my hamster, a really awesome thing was happening, that I scraped my shin. So my sister let me, once we got to the pet store, she let me pick out my hamster first, and then she would pick out hers. Now that was significant because we needed to get hamsters of the same sex so that they would not produce little hamster babies. So once I picked out my hamster, then she would pick from the hamsters of the same sex for her hamster. So when we finally got to the pet store, I found my hamster. She was a cute little baby hamster. She was probably she just fit right in the middle of my palm. She was a black and white hamster, and I, being the creative genius that I am, I named her Cutie Pie. So Cutie Pie was a girl, and there happened to be only one other girl hamster at the pet store that day. Now this other girl hamster that my sister therefore had to get was an albino hamster, so it was white with red beady eyes. Growing up, I have learned that albino animals, while they are very creepy looking, aren't always that mean. This hamster was both creepy looking and evil. Before we left the pet store, it had bit her and my friend. It had bit my sister and my friend to the point of bleeding, and liked to chase other hamsters. But my sister had to get a girl hamster, so she had to get that hamster. Once we had the hamsters picked out, we got the cage and the wood chips and the food and all of that little hamster ball thing, and brought them home. We were so excited to have pets finally of our own. My sister's hamster would chase my hamster around to the point where it was getting dangerous. It was trying to attack my hamster. We ended up putting it in a cardboard box for the night so that we could take it back to the pet store in the morning. When we woke up the next day, her hamster had chewed a hole through the cardboard box and escaped. When we finally found the hamster, we took it back, and she got to get another girl hamster that was not albino and not evil, and its name was Brown Sugar. It was a brown and white hamster. In the few months span of us having our hamsters, her hamster, she had 3 hamsters. The first one, as we know, was evil, demonic, possessed, so we had to return it. We got Sugar, Brown Sugar. Brown Sugar was a lovely hamster, but I had a tendency to not close the cage door all the way. Now that I'm older, I'll admit that it was me. I would never have done that when I was, 8 or 9 years old. But anyways, I left the cage door open quite frequently on accident. So her hamster escaped, got into our vents, and died. So she got another hamster. I don't really remember what this hamster's name was, but she never got over Brown Sugar. I remember that she even drew a picture of it in one of her classes. Anyway, so she got another hamster. I left the cage door open, and it got into our vents and died. My parents decided that she was not getting another hamster, and we're just going to have Cutie Pie until she dies. Mostly because my sister and I, even though we promised when we begged for the hamsters originally, we would never, ever clean the cage, and so it was always my dad that ended up doing it. My hamster was a resilient little girl. She escaped the cage 3 times. 2 of those times she ended up in the vents, but she lived. The first time she escaped, she ended up in the vent, and she happened to scratch at the vent door in my sister's room at night, and she found her, and we unscrewed the vent and got her out, and then put the vent back and put her back in the cage. The second time she escaped, I was going to take a shower, and I had forgotten my clothes or something, and I walked back into my room, and I saw her just sitting under my bed, staring at me and that gave me a shock, so I picked her up, put her back in the cage. The third time she escaped, again, I am horrible at closing the cage door, she got into the vent again, and again, she scratched at my sister's vent in my sister's room, and until we freed her and put her back in the cage. Cutie Pie was a resilient little girl. Unfortunately, maybe about October of my 4th grade year, I got really sick and had to be in the hospital for about a week. For a while, the doctors had no idea what was going on, and they did a lot of blood work, and if you've ever seen me freak out for anything medical related, that would be why. That scarred me for life. Anyways. So I was in the hospital for about a week, and I think maybe about the 3rd day or so that I was in the hospital, the doctors thought that maybe I had gotten a disease from my hamster. By the end of my lovely hospital stay, I went home to find out that my poor little Cutie Pie, the resilient little girl that she was, met her fate by being tossed out the window by my dad when the doctors thought that she gave me the disease, even though she didn't. I was really sad. But then we got a puppy, so I wasn't sad anymore. And that is my hamster's life story.